Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 bars discrimination based on pregnancy. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 amended Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to stop employers from discriminating against pregnancy and its related medical conditions. The Act makes pregnancy equal to other illness or injury policies in that if an employer provides benefits for other temporary disabilities, the same policies must apply to pregnancy too. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 requires employers to treat pregnancy as a temporary disability and apply any existing policies regarding temporary disabilities to pregnancy also. Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, COBRA of 1985. Employee and Family Health Insurance for Disemployed. The Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, COBRA of 1985, allows employees to continue health insurance into unemployment. The basic problem is that employees and their families covered by health insurance while employed still need health insurance when unemployed. COBRA works to address this issue. Quote, qualifying events, end quote, for, quote, qualified employees, end quote, allow the continuation of health insurance at the employee's expense. Dental care, vision care, prescription drugs are included. Life insurance is excluded. 20 or more employees qualifies the employer. Qualifying events include death of employee, parentheses, continuing health insurance for their family, end parentheses, termination or reduction in hours, parentheses, because of resignation, layoff, discharge, parentheses, gross misconduct is excluded, end parentheses, strike, lockout, medical leave or business slowdown, end parentheses, divorce or legal separation, parentheses, affecting spouse's health insurance, end parentheses, or dependent child outgrowing age of coverage. The Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, COBRA of 1985, allows the continuation of health insurance after disemployment for the employee and his or her family. Alternative Work Schedules, AWS. Work schedule that varies from 40-hour work week. In America, traditional work schedules are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., with an hour for lunch for an 8-hour day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, for a 40-hour work week. Alternative Work Schedules, AWS, are alternative options to this traditional schedule and include part-time schedules, temporary employees, flex time, compressed work schedules, job sharing, rotational shift schedules, and telecommuting. Part-time is less than 35 hours per week. Temporary employees are usually provided by a third-party employment vendor. Flex time is one of the most used alternate work schedules with varying start and finish times, typically with a set core time, parentheses, a set time all flex timers are at work, end parentheses. Compressed work schedules are fewer, but longer days, like 4 10-hour days, for example. Job sharing is when two employees share the responsibilities of a single full-time job. Rotational shift schedules may work nights for some period of weeks and then switch to mornings for some period of weeks. Telecommuting is working some number of hours through the internet from home. Alternative work schedules are work schedules that vary from the traditional 8-hour per day, 5 days per week work week. Clark-Wilson Project Leadership Practices, PLP, Task Cycle. Search, plan, facilitate, feedback, positive control, recognize. Clark-Wilson developed the task cycle in 1973. The cycle has 6 steps: communicating goals, planning and problem solving, facilitating the work of others, obtaining and providing feedback, exercising positive control, and recognizing contributions. Clark's first task cycle in 1973 was named Project Leadership Practices, PLP, and has 5 phases consisting of Phase 1, finding creative solutions, taking informed risks, utilizing good judgment. Phase 2, planning is key to directing team effort, ability to adapt/overcome obstacles and involve others. Phase 3, fostering and empowerment, team-driven environment, coach members in carrying out work, manage/address customer needs and expectations. Phase 4, set performance standards, monitor and track details, appropriately utilize authority to get results, delegate responsibility. Phase 5, acknowledges the contribution of others. The Clark-Wilson Project Leadership Practices, PLP, task cycle is a method of management which basically involves searching for the best options, planning, facilitating workers, providing feedback, using positive authority, and recognizing those who contribute. Synonyms: 360-degree feedback survey. Related words: leadership cycle. Burlington Industries v. Ellerth, 1988. Forcing an employee to quit is constructive discharge. In the case Burlington Industries v. Ellerth, 1988, Ellerth was effectively forced to quit her job because of sexual harassment, and this is called a, quote, constructive discharge, end quote. Many industries have made constructive discharges illegal. For example, in landlording, getting rid of a tenant by making life miserable is a constructive eviction and against the law. The company was found liable because even though they did not know, they should have known. A person who quits because of sexual harassment is suffering a constructive discharge. Rehabilitation Act of 1973 bars discrimination of disabled by government contractors. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 bars discrimination of handicapped individuals by government contractors and requires government contractors or government-assisted employers to take affirmative action on behalf of handicapped individuals. Different sections of the Act define different requirements. Employers with federal contracts of $10,000 or more each year, including construction contracts, are required not to discriminate and to take affirmative action on behalf of handicapped individuals or persons with disabilities. Employers with 50 or more employees and federal contracts of $50,000 or more each year must have a written affirmative action plan for the employment and advancement of qualified individuals with handicaps or disabilities. Complaints regarding the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 are to be made with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. The Rehabilitation Act of 1973 bars discrimination of handicapped individuals by government contractors and requires government contractors to take affirmative action on behalf of handicapped or disabled individuals. Oncale v. Sundowner, Offshore Services, 1998. Title VII applies to same-gender sexual harassment too. In the case of Oncale v. Sundowner, Offshore Services, 1998, Joseph Oncale was a worker on an oil rig working as a roustabout on an 8-man crew. Oncale suffered humiliation on several occasions, including being sodomized with a bar of soap and threatened with rape by his male co-workers. When he complained to supervisors, his complaints were dismissed. Oncale quit and asked that his final papers reflect that he was quitting because of sexual harassment. Oncale filed suit against Sundowner. He lost twice, but on appeal to the Supreme Court, was found to have been harassed according to Title VII of the Equal Rights Act of 1964. Oncale v. Sundowner Offshore Services, 1998, established that Title VII applied to sexual harassment even when both parties are of the same gender. Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA of 1990, prohibits discrimination based on disability. The Americans with Disability Act, ADA of 1990, requires that employers make, quote, reasonable accommodation to the physical and mental limitations of an employee or an applicant, end quote, unless such an accommodation will cause undue hardship to the employer. Disability is defined by the ADA as, quote, a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity, end quote. As might be understood by the vagueness of the language of the ADA, it has taken time for specifics of the law to emerge. Whether or not a particular condition is considered a disability is made on a case-by-case basis. The ADA does not require any affirmative actions on behalf of disabled candidates over other candidates. The ADA excludes current substance abuse and visual impairment that is correctable by prescription lenses. Former substance abuse is protected, however. The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, of 1990 adds disabilities to Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as a protected class. The ADA prohibits discrimination based on disability. Davis v. USX Corporation, United Steel Corp., 1985. The company which tolerates harassment is liable. In the case Davis v. USX Corporation, United Steel Corp., 1985, Davis, a female employee, was sexually harassed by her boss, Jim Bryan. During this time, Jim's boss, Jim Stouts, had reason to be aware of the alleged sexual harassment and did nothing. Stouts even conducted an investigation into Davis's claims against Bryan and did nothing. In the end, This case established that if a supervisor or company knew of the sexual harassment and does nothing, it is liable. Vietnam-era Veterans Readjustment Act, VEVRAA of 1974. Federal contractors favor war veterans who are disabled. The Vietnam-era Veterans Readjustment Act, VEVRAA of 1974, requires employers with federal contracts of $25,000 or more to provide equal opportunity and affirmative action for Vietnam-era veterans, parentheses, and other veterans too, and parentheses, and, quote, special, end quote, disabled veterans or veterans for whom a campaign badge has been authorized. The definition of a special disabled veteran is a discharged veteran because of a disability and entitled to compensation. Veterans disabled 30% or more, or 10 or 20% if the veteran has been determined to have a serious employment handicap. A medal veteran means a veteran who was awarded a campaign badge or medal pursuant to executive order. Complaints can be made at the Office of Federal Contact Compliance Programs or at the local state employment services office. VEVRAA not only applies to Vietnam-era veterans, but also to veterans of other wars. Employers with 50 or more employees and federal contracts of $50,000 or more are required to prepare a written affirmation action plan for hiring and promoting disabled veterans. The Vietnam-era Veterans Readjustment Act, VEVRAA of 1974, requires federal contractors to provide equal opportunity and affirmative action for disabled veterans.